hypovolemic shock, loss of blood. The container was leaking out blood, so to speak, in simple terms. But we sealed the container back again with the tourniquets. He was a little confused. His level of conscience was decreasing a little bit. He was still in that state of shock. What I mean by that is he was still surprised that he had gotten hit, but due to him being in good shape, he was able to sustain his own respirations. His respirations was like maybe 24. Pulse was 120. So he was able to sustain life, and he will be fine because I checked on it long enough to get him back to the hospital, the Rural 3 over here in the Wire. My name is Sergeant Jordan Tyrone. I'm a flight medic at the 1st of the 214th Aviation Regiment out of Germany. We have a motto, striving to save lives, and every day we go out in the wire, we strive to save lives, because that's our mission here.
We are out several times a day, just answering the call, whatever it may be, from picking up a guy that just been struck from an IED to the guy that has abdominal pain. That facility just can't facilitate running the necessary exams. We need to move them to a higher echelon of care. So, the full spectrum of injuries, averaging anywhere from 5 to 15 calls a day. So you can get pretty busy.
It's very disorientating. You don't know where the casualty is. And you'll sort of land into a dust cloud, and the dust starts to settle, and you can then work out what's going on. The medic will have had a conversation sometimes about the nature of the casualty, but not always. And so what you'll have is this briefing in the dust where the soldiers will tell the medic exactly what they've done. Have they applied morphine, how many tourniquets, and what else they may have done to try to stabilize the casualty. The medevac teams and people like Tyrone are relatively unique in a combat or a fighting force because they're there to save lives, not to take them. And I remember the image that is left with me of a pregnant Afghan woman looking across and seeing her mother, who was very much worse, in a much worse state than she was, and seeing her trying to be saved. I found that very moving as well.
A lot of the missions we do are local nationals. The 3 we did today were local national. Probably or roughly about half, if I had to guess. We'll go in for anybody. We go in for locals, we go in for soldiers, we go in for coalition forces, we even go for enemy POW.
Everybody was treated equally. There was no distinction in these crews and the medics like Tyrone in the effort they made to save any life, and that could be a Taliban life. We would only know if a Taliban had come into the helicopter or an enemy insurgent because a Marine would accompany them. So, and they'd normally be handcuffed if there wasn't a good medical reason why that was inappropriate. And we had people who had been making bombs. There was one person who got blown up by the bomb they were making. And we'd have quite a few Taliban come into the helicopters. But Tyrone would apply the medical assistance to everybody universally, and that was quite an impressive thing to see. The aim of this helicopter isn't to fix you, it's to keep you alive. And they do that by trying to keep everything working, by treating the body as a container, making sure it doesn't lose more liquids, and if it has lost too much, trying to replace them quickly. Trying to reduce the shock, trying to address pain, and trying to ensure that they contain the body so it can cope by staying alive long enough to get to the hospital where they can really start sorting you out. And it's remarkable what they can do. It's remarkable because if you get alive into that helicopter, the chances are pretty close to certain, of course there's a small amount, but it's pretty close, in the high 90%, that you're going to live.
If you look over the history of the conflicts that the U.S. has been involved with over the years, each war we've learned something new. But in the past decade, there's been several advances. First thing is stopping the bleeding. The use of tourniquets as kind of a primary use of stopping hemorrhage. Prior to this, it was thought of usually only as a last resort. It's been saving a lot of lives. The other things are hemostatic agents, and what those are is just different agents that we can use to form clots on the site of injury. So stopping the bleeding is probably the most important one right now. Airway, that's another thing that if we can manage the patient's airway, they have an increased survival rate. So we're doing right by that.
Group we were with, there were actually 6 helicopters, and 3 of them were medical helicopters and had Red Crosses on. The other 3, they're called chase helicopters, and their job is to provide a sort of close protection. And they all have machine guns, and in the event of coming in to pick up a casualty from a hot landing zone where there's still a fight going on, they're there to provide covering fire.
Got top 73 safe on deck, they want us to go first. The guy's running towards us, he's in that starts to swing. And either which way you want to take the zone. Delta, once you have the patient here approved to depart to the west and climb. I'm having. Cut 3 captains west and climb. With 30 seconds. Really probably 30 seconds. Just be advised, I got about 1 minute until I'm on the deals right now.
Can I just ask you a couple of questions?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, about the patients, how it went.